Hello everybody, my name is Hako and welcome to the channel. Today we're gonna get a little bit nerdy, we're gonna be crunching some numbers. So on basically every video I put up since Burnice released, or a lot of them, that I've included Burnice in, I've been getting comments that I should not be using Caesar and I should instead be using Lucy. And now the simple hypothesis here is that Lucy provides 600 attack if you max out her buff to every member of the party, including herself. So say that your party is Yanagi, Lucy, Burnice. Yanagi 600 attack, Lucy 600 attack, Burnice 600 attack as long as the buff is active. Yeah. Meanwhile, Caesar's buff works like this. She provides a shield to the on-field agent. And only that agent gets the buff. The buff is an insanely strong shield, and it is also 1000 attack at C0. If you have her at Mindscape 2, this attack buff increases to 1500. And now, I have a very, very decked out Caesar. So I've decided to do this test on a high-end account, which is my account, and then on a low-end account, low investment on basically all of the characters, and see if the difference persists there. And I think you're gonna enjoy the results. They're quite shocking. So, just on paper, if you just think about it, okay, so Caesar doesn't provide any attack to Burnice when Burnice is off field, but Lucy does. That means that Lucy is better, right? Well, let's talk about it. So on the high-end account, which is my account, let's go with that first. So with Lucy, I get the afterburn damage tick to do slightly over 20,000 damage, 20,576. That's not a crit. That's just afterburn damage on a proc, and this can proc once every 1.5 seconds, and this is basically how Burnice works off field. And a burn crit with Lucy deals 39,834. Quite good numbers, and especially considering they happen once every second, they really do build up. And when it comes to Disorder, so this is basically what I've been doing today. I've been trying this out a bunch. I've been recording my entire sessions, training it out. Then I've been looking over it, a lot of parts in slow motion, and discern what's the highest number I can possibly get with all of the buffs applied. And for Disorder, the highest Disorder proc I managed to get with this team that consists of Yanagi, Lucy, and Burnice, 561,911. So, yeah, over 500,000 damage. This is obviously quite crazy, and it is obviously quite bananas. Now remember, in a Yanagi team, Disorder damage will be buffed. So, how does these numbers look if we instead do Caesar? So, we switch out Lucy and we put in a Caesar. With Caesar, the burn damage, the afterburn damage, goes from 20k to 22,909. So, plus 13% increase in damage. And same obviously goes for a crit. The crit also follows along at a 13% increased damage. So already we can start to see that even though Lucy doesn't provide, or even though Caesar doesn't provide a buff here to Burnice, the fact that she does so many other things still makes Caesar come out on top a bit. So what's happening here? Why is the afterburn damage doing more with Caesar? Well, there are two reasons for this. Or sorry, there are a few reasons for this. If we pop into the skills, into the equipment, the Protopunk increases everybody's damage by 15%. And the Tusks of Fury increases all squad members' damage by 18%. So this is Caesar's signature engine. But don't worry, Lucy almost has an equally good engine. So instead of using Lucy's signature one, I'm using Weeping Cradle, which is her better one. And this paired with Caesar's additional ability Battle Spirit, that makes all enemies around Caesar take 25% more damage for 30 seconds whenever she does certain things. The easiest way to trigger this is basic attack Dead End, which is when you hold the attack. So with all of these buffs and debuffs applied to your team and to the enemies, you gain a 13% increase in damage on the afterburn effect. And the highest disorder damage I managed to pull off with this team was 677,275. And this is an increase of 20% to the 560,000 we managed to do with Lucy. And the disorder one is gonna be like your biggest bang, or like that is where a majority of your damage is gonna be coming from, especially in a Yanagi team. So those crits or that damage is really what we want to be looking on here. So we can see a slight increase in burn damage, 30%, and on the disorder damage, which is the big source of damage when it comes to a Yanagi team or any sort of disorder team, we can see a 20% increase in damage on a high-end account. So how does these buffs, or like how does the disparity between this look between a high-end and a low-end account? Well, let's have a little look. So my partner Luni, she was super kind and let me borrow her account and like play around with her Caesar, her Burnice, her Lucy. And she has Caesar at C0, Lucy at M6, and Burnice at M1 with Burnice's signature engine. So in this team, Lucy is fully decked out, Caesar is kind of bare bone, and she's using the Battle Pass defense W engine. Now, in this team, without Caesar's engine, Lucy actually comes out on top with the afterburn damage. Lucy, you managed to pull off a crit for 29,689, and like a normal tick, not crit, is 18,015. And with Caesar, instead you will crit 23,574. So with Lucy, you have a 25% increase in aftertaste damage. Sorry, afterburn damage. Well, who has aftertaste damage? I feel like someone has something called aftertaste. Sokaku? So, just going off the afterburn damage, Lucy actually comes out on top on this one. But now when it comes down to the meat of it all, to the disorder and the assault. So Luni hasn't managed to pull Yanagi yet, so I had to try this out with Jane Doe. And the difference of having Lucy and Caesar became very apparent here. So for disorder, with Lucy, I managed to pull off 278,284 damage. With Caesar on the team, I instead managed to pull off a disorder of 391,725 damage. So an increase of 40%. That's pretty nutty, honestly. And when it comes to assault, which is how a Jane team basically gets by, that's gonna be a Jane team is the biggest chunk of damage. With Lucy, we managed to pull off an assault of 210,636 damage for one assault. With Caesar on the team, I instead managed to do an assault of 278,971 damage. So almost a difference of 60,000, which is an increase of 30%, 32% to be exact. So when it comes to like the low investment account, Caesar actually pulls ahead even more, and especially where it counts. Now the afterburn damage will be better with Lucy, but the disorder that happens, the assault that happens, is better with Caesar as a support than Lucy. So why are we seeing a bigger change in the low investment account compared to, the higher investment account? So one, providing an even bigger, like the buffs applied to a low account is going to be even more significant because it's a bigger percentage of damage that gets added on. And in a disorder team, preferably you want to alternate the effects. So if you're running with Jane and Burnice, You want to do assault, burn, to keep it up. And now, whenever Burnice procs her burn and applies disorder that way, that will get a slight increase in damage thanks to Lucy. But then when it comes to Jane's turn to like trigger her disorder with her assault, having 1,000 extra attack on her instead of 600, which you will get from Lucy, really plays a big difference. So yeah, you will pull forward slightly with Burnice, but overall Caesar will get you further. And if we also take all of the debuffs that Caesar applies, all of the debuffs and buffs, so like with the disc sets, and if you have a signature engine that increases the entire team's damage by a percentage amount, and that is very powerful when it comes to big crits. Because 30% of 50,000, that's not that much, but if we're talking 50% extra of 500,000, that is a lot. That is an amazing amount. And that is just looking at Caesar, like, objectively, just through how much extra damage brings to the table. And then you also need to take other things into consideration. Caesar shields. Caesar's shield is super freaking strong. There are some game modes in this game that's basically unplayable without Caesar. The Endless Tower, if you want to get past 25. Her grouping potential, her massive debuffing, like Caesar just does it all. Caesar is amazing. Now, don't try and think that don't have the message to take away from this be that Lucy is bad anyway, because she's not. I love Lucy. I think she was the first ever character I did a guide on this channel, because she's that good. She's really freaking amazing, and I love Lucy. And one thing you need to remember about Lucy as well is that she does a fair amount of damage as well, or specifically her boards do it, especially on a high-end account. The boards actually does an absurd amount of damage. If you do a blitz with a fully decked out Lucy, you're stuck into a team and then you check the damage percentages afterwards, she is gonna provide a big chunk of it. So Lucy is not to be slept on. She provides a lot more than just her buff as well. And one of the reasons that Lucy is falling behind is that she is also diluting Burnice's burn by quite a bit, or by a bit. So Lucy will help build up the burn, but Lucy doesn't have any anomaly proficiency. Now, you can build her anomaly proficiency. I would advise against it. The testing I've done is that on paper, once again, if you just look at one thing, you might have an increase, but overall you will have a decrease because her boars will do so much less damage. So I choose to run attack percentage on Lucy as high as I need in order for her buff to apply 600. After that, crit rate and crit damage to make the boars dangerous. So what's happening here is that Lucy is diluting Burnice's burn proc by quite a bit. So say that when it finally procs and becomes burning, say that Lucy has built up 20 or 25% of that stack, you will have a smaller disorder explosion happening than if Burnice had gotten to do it alone. And with Caesar, she obviously doesn't, dilute Burnice's fire in any way, because she doesn't do fire damage. And instead, in a disorder team, like say that you run Yanagi, Caesar, and Burnice, well, with Caesar, you can then also, apply a third element. Now, she doesn't apply a super, she doesn't do a super much of physical anomaly build-up, but in a long fight, you will be triggering assaults, especially if you do defensive assists. And I tried to do these tests as fair as possible, which meant that I wanted them to have an equal amount of gear. That's why instead of running Lucy's signature one, which is a really good one, I put it on Rena's one, which is an even better one. To make it more fair to Lucy. And also there's a lot of buffs in place. So for Caesar, I made sure that Caesar's shield was active. I made sure that Protopunk was active. I made sure that her engine was active. I made sure that her passive additional ability was active. So there's a lot more moving parts when it comes to Caesar. Like there's a lot more stuff you need to do in order for all of the buffs to be applied at that point in time. You need to do defensive assists or evasive assists. You need to do EX special to keep the shield up. You need to do the hold down the attack button in order to apply the debuff to enemies. Meanwhile, Lucy is a lot simpler. You just swing the bat and then the buff is applied for, I think it's up to 25 or is it 30 seconds if you have Lucy at M6, which is a big chance that you have. We've gotten Lucy's for free and she's also been rated up on more than one banner. So in terms of like easy to use, Lucy is very convenient because she doesn't require that much to get going. Meanwhile, if you want to max everything for Caesar, the skill ceiling is quite a bit higher. But the most bang for your buck, the most damage is gonna come from having Caesar on the team. And I'm really happy I did this research and I did this video because, you know, now I have something I can refer people to when they say that Lucy is better in these teams. Quite frankly, she is not. Is she still really, really, really good and fits this team really, really well? Yes, 100%. 100%. So like, don't feel like you can't run Lucy, but Caesar is gonna be the slightly better one. And I think this is like a prime example of, you know, if you just look at one thing and like really, really zoom in on that one thing, you can think that, oh, I can do these changes and this specific thing will be better. Which, yes, but it is so important to like zoom out and look at the bigger picture when it comes to these things. Because there are so many goddamn moving parts in these combats that needs to be taken into consideration. So, yeah. If you have anything to, you know, add to the conversation, maybe there's something I'm not thought about, or have you done your own testing and, you know, come to a different conclusion, please let me know in the comments down below. And yeah, thank you so freaking much for watching. I put out Zenless content every day, so if you're into that, maybe stick around the channel. But until next time, thank you so much for watching. Hako out.
She's under attack. Chains speaky smile, the rats on the prowl. Seduction's the game. She'll take you down. And where it goes, well, this is a cheat.